Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Rux, I'm Western Tropical Astrologer, and today we are going to be talking about the new moon in Taurus coming up on the 27th of April. This is happening at 7 degrees 46 minutes of Taurus. So who is going to feel this new moon the most? People who have in their natal chart planets or angles or important points such as the North Node around 7 to 8 degrees of the fixed signs. What are the fixed signs, you might ask? Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Leo. So you are going to feel this lunation the most. Who is going to enjoy this new moon the most? Those of you who have planets or angles or important points in the natal chart around 7 to 8 degrees of the following: Virgo, Capricorn, Cancer, and Pisces. And also those of you who might have planets or angles around 27, 28 degrees of Pisces, because that is where Venus, the ruler, the dispositor of this new moon, is going to be at. It's going to be at 28 degrees, 29 minutes of Pisces, to be very, very, very precise. Oh gosh, there is so much to say about this new moon, but there is also so much to say about what's happening right before the new moon, right before this is taking place in the evening on the Sunday of the 27th of April. So the new moon is happening at 7:30 p.m. GMT time. Obviously, you can adjust that for your own time zone. I am based in the UK. I'm based in London, which is why I say this is happening in the evening. It's happening in the evening for me. If I were to summarize the theme of this new moon, it would be probably the calm after the storm. Because it's very, very likely that there will be some storms, metaphorical but also literal, before this lunation. Also on the 27th of April, but a little bit earlier during the day, Mars is going to oppose Pluto on the Leo Aquarius axis. So this whole week has actually been a very intense week, with the Sun in Taurus squaring Pluto, squaring Mars. Then the Mars-Pluto opposition is perfecting. So you could say that after an intense week, we have a calming, I don't want to say weekend, I want to say Sunday evening. The new moon is emphasizing, this new moon in particular, stability, security, a slow and steady new beginning, because obviously new moons are symbolically associated with new beginnings, with a fresh start. And it doesn't have to be very loud. This is actually not a loud new moon. It's not a very dramatic or hyped up new moon. On the contrary, it might feel very kind of slow and comforting. And the emphasis is placed on stability and security and patience, I'd say. Also, Taurus is an earth sign, and this new moon is ruled by Venus in a water sign. So both of these energies in astrology are turned inwards. So we might actually experience a new beginning that is focusing more on what's going on the inside. So I repeat, don't expect something super loud, very over the top. Quite the opposite. But what is happening before the new moon is quite over the top. I'm just gonna say it. So Mars opposing Pluto is likely to bring intense conflicts, destructive conflicts potentially. Mars is the energy of action and attack. Pluto is associated with what's going on under the surface, underground. It's associated with transformation. It is associated with power. It's associated with obsession. It's associated with death and rebirth, with fixation. So combine these two together. So action combined with intensity and power and obsession and fixation. And they are in a little bit of a tug of war kind of setup, because that's the energy of the opposition. So they are at each other's throats, so to speak. So I repeat, It's not an easy week, it's not an easy weekend, but this new moon is going to come in like a breath of fresh air, of relief. And if I were to make a recommendation to probably everyone, but mostly to people who have planets or angles and fixed signs in the natal chart, I would say take it slow, take it easy. Sometimes your opponents or sometimes the issue that you're up against is a lot deeper and stronger and more powerful and more potent than you initially imagined. I will say choose your battles very wisely because things can escalate very quickly. I will also say to folks who are watching this, if you can, do stay out of trouble and out of potentially dangerous situations, including from a physical perspective. So Mars is associated also with kind of like physical action. So there can be literal like physical danger that is kind of like lurking about. So I repeat, it's not the time to be adventurous. It's not the time to take unnecessary risks because there might be a very, very dear price to pay. But I repeat, this new moon is going to come in like a breath of fresh air. It is happening right after the opposition. The new moon is technically squaring Mars and Pluto, but the aspect is separating. So the exact aspect has already happened. So the energy of the square, of the tension, of the frustration is dying down. It is being dimmed by other things happening in the sky. I repeat, a few key themes to expect at the time of this new moon, both on a personal level as well as at a collective level. A slow and steady new beginning, a sensible, practical approach to a specific area of our life. Patience, security, stoicism are all themes. Acceptance of what is, since Venus, the ruler of the new moon, is going to be in Pisces, and Pisces is very strongly associated with accepting what is, and forgiving and tolerating. And also, it's very strongly associated with saving, helping, rescuing others. So there may be a focus on helping others at the time of this new moon and potentially helping them build or rebuild things, or helping them in a practical way, maybe in a financial way, in a pragmatic way, I'd say. There might also be a strong focus at the time of this new moon on money. So the economy might begin. It's very possible. I know it's been like a very turbulent few months, a very turbulent spring from a financial, from an economic perspective for like the stock market and so on. So from an economic perspective, things may actually start to calm down a little bit. I will say this. The focus is also likely to be pulled towards topics associated with farming and agriculture and food, because these are all Taurian topics, as well as nature, the construction industry, and the physical body in general, and the 5 physical senses. I did mention that this new moon is ruled by Venus in Pisces. Venus in Pisces emphasizes idealism. It emphasizes the idealization of maybe a romantic partner or of someone who we are in a relationship with. There might also be these sort of like ideals of a beauty, of fashion, of design that Venus in Pisces adheres to. Venus in Pisces also emphasizes taking joy and pleasure out of spiritual experiences, out of artistic experiences, but also out of experiences that have something to do with healing, helping, saving, rescuing others. Venus in Pisces is also very dream focused. So it has a dream, it has a vision. Venus is going to be conjunct the North Node. The hand of fate, the hand of destiny is at play at the time of this new moon. There may be fated experiences, fated encounters, people that come into our life that have a very life-altering effect upon us. Now, I always say hindsight is 20/20. So you might not necessarily realize this impact that these people have immediately. We might realize it a little bit later, over the next maybe like year and a half, all the way until July of 2026, when the North Node gets out of Pisces. Venus is also going to be conjunct Saturn, Father Time, the planet of duty, of responsibility, of patience, of commitment. So we are committing to something or to someone. We are committed to building something beautiful. We are committed to helping someone in the long term. There have been maybe tests or challenges that we've encountered in certain relationships. We are prone to idealizing the people that we love, but Saturn brings a heavy dose of, as I said, pragmatism and practicality. So it's a very interesting combination. It's a combination that says duty first, pleasure after. Duty first for the sake of love, for the sake of a higher, maybe, connection that we have to maybe a greater goal or to the collective. I also feel, however, that Saturn doubles down on the topic of stability at the time of this new moon. So Saturn says, okay, let's calm down. Let's take it easy. Let's be cautious. Let's take a steady approach to things, a reserved approach to things. And I feel like that is very, very beneficial to an extent after the Mars-Pluto opposition. Mars is rash, Pluto is intense. There have been a lot of argumentative, accident-prone experiences that people might have had in the week before the new moon. So let's welcome a little bit of Saturn in our lives. I do want to apologize for my voice if it does sound a little bit off. It's because I had some sort of cold slash flu slash whatever it might have been. I'm doing well. I'm okay, but my voice is still hanging on in there. I'm getting back to 100%. Before we dive into the update for each of the 12 zodiac signs, which obviously we are going to do, I do want to remind you to please listen to the update for your rising sign, because these general horoscopes are built with the rising sign in mind. And if you don't know your rising sign, you can listen to the update for your sun sign. But I recommend rising sign first. Also, for those of you who are new here, but maybe also for those of you who have been following me for some time, a reminder that I work with clients on a day-to-day basis. I'm a full-time consulting astrologer. In my practice, I work with clients to help them reconnect with their soul's intentions, help them make the most of their of the life chapter that they're in, and of the timeline of their life with the use of astrology, because we always say this, timing is everything, but do we really understand what that means, or do we really implement that in our lives? I feel like sometimes maybe no. So astrology is very, very helpful in terms of understanding what greater kind of chapter we're in, what should we focus on, where we are supported in growing and expanding, where we are supported in maybe subtracting something or dialing things down, where we are maybe nudged to release something from our lives. So my focus in my practice is both on the greater themes of someone's life, so natal chart interpretation, understanding themes and topics and patterns in your relationship sector, in your career. What is your ideal career path? What is your vocational path in this lifetime? What are your talents? What are your skills? What are your challenges? But my practice is also very strongly focused on the forecasting side of things, which I believe is equally helpful. And ultimately, I am a big believer in the fact that astrology is here to help us understand what our mission and purpose is. So if you want to work with me, you can find my services on my website, written thestars-astrology.com. I've also left the website in the description box and in the comment section. And if you're a new client, the 1 hour, 15 minutes Zoom consultation is the one to go for. If you're an existing client, then you can go for the 30 minutes follow-up if you have specific questions, or if we haven't spoken in a year, then for the year ahead forecast, which is a separate service. And if you are in a rush, if you're in a hurry, or if you're dealing with a time-sensitive matter or topic, then you can also go for the emergency reading option, Generally, for normal consultations, the waiting time is around a month to a month and a half. But for emergency readings, the waiting time is 3 days. So you also have that option if, I repeat, you are dealing with something that needs to be addressed, that can benefit from the astrological insights and also from tarot related insights. If you're dealing with something that you want to dive into immediately, you do have that emergency option. Now, without further ado, let us go into the updates for each of the 12 zodiac signs. And obviously, we are going to start off with Aries. Aries suns and Aries risings. 27th of April, active 3 days before, 3 days after, my dear Aries, we have a new moon in your second house of income, self-worth, and self-esteem, ruled by Venus in the 12th house, conjunct Saturn. Now, this new moon puts the spotlight on a fresh start, on a new beginning when it comes to your financial situation. There might be a new source of income coming in, or you might decide to approach your financial sector differently. So you might cut down on some expenses, you might release certain unnecessary expenses from your life. You might also decide to potentially explore different sources of income behind the scenes. Maybe by doing something that you kind of like just do for like in terms of service, let's say. So I'm assuming maybe, I don't know, let's say you run your own business. You might start off by offering a service, but not to the general public. You might just kind of like offer it initially to like a select set of people. And then further down the line, you might decide, okay, I'm going to share this with like the general kind of like audience. I do believe you might also release some existing values at the time of this new moon. Now, I know that generally new moons tend to bring things in. New moons kind of like draw energy towards us, but this new moon, for you in particular, my dear Aries, especially Aries risings, it seems to put the spotlight on what needs to go from your life in terms of values. So maybe you valued, I don't know, like self-sacrifice, or maybe you valued a certain approach to work. You might decide, yeah, this is no longer working for me. This is not contributing to my long-term security and stability. There's also a possibility that you might decide to start working on developing new skills and potentially like a new set of resources that you can monetize further down the line, Aries. But you might start doing this behind the scenes. So not immediately sharing this with the broader, wider world. You might also decide to start investing more into your mental health, into your emotional health. And I feel like you might decide to prioritize sleep and relaxation as opposed to doing action, like always being on the go, always being on the run, always something happening. More isn't always better. Sometimes less is more in the long term. I do feel like things are also calming down for you when it comes to maybe an issue that has been giving you headaches, maybe that has been causing you to lose sleep. So things are kind of like settling down. However, before the new moon, so in the weekend and in the few days before the new moon, you might have had like a really intense fight, maybe with like a friend or a lover or with a child. So I feel like you are learning something really, really important. Not all battles are worth having, or not all victories are won through a direct approach. Some victories are won through acceptance of what is, as paradoxical as that might be. I do apologize. I repeat for my weird voice. My dear Taurus, Taurus suns and Taurus risings. 27th of April, active 3 days before, 3 days after. We have a new moon in your first house, a new beginning on a personal level, maybe a new beginning when it comes to your relationship with your physical body, a new beginning maybe when it comes to your goals for the future. You're potentially stepping into a new identity, and this seems to be very, very strongly connected with your goals, your plans for the future. You might be stepping into a new role and taking on a new identity. Also in your career, there is a possibility that some of you could be kicking off a new important work project, or could be stepping into a new industry career-wise. This does seem to be really big. I feel like you're making a major commitment for the long term to to a project or to a path or to a goal from a professional or from a reputational perspective. Going back to the relationship with yourself, some of you could decide to invest more in your physical body, and maybe to join a community, a group of people that are also focused on improving your relationship with your body, improving your relationship with your health, maybe also with your mental health. Some of you could also join a community in general around this time, my dear Taurians. And it feels like this is going to be an important community for you when it comes to your career path, when it comes to your goals and plans for the future. I do believe you might have some really fated encounters with people who can have a positive, beneficial impact on your long-term goals. It feels like you need, however, to take this very, very seriously. It's not like it's not just something to do lightly or to commit to lightly or to say yes to lightly. I feel like this is a very serious thing. It will require time. It will require discipline. So make sure that you know what you're saying yes to, my dear Taurians. You might also decide to approach friendship very differently. Taurus, you might decide to be a little bit more strategic about which people, which friends get to spend time with you. There is a possibility that you might make a new friend or that you might strengthen the relationship with a friend. And at the same time, there is a possibility that you might step away from certain friendships that are no longer aligned with the person who you want to become. Make sure to rest around the time of this new moon. I do feel like things have been probably very intense at home, in your career sector, in your home life, in your family life. I do feel like this week in the lead up to the new moon, and especially the days before the new moon, there may have been some really intense like power struggles, maybe with a family member or with a partner. Something might have broken around the house. So I feel like you need this time to catch your breath and to say, okay, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm planning to do next. And this is who I have on my side. You do seem to have some really good people on your side. I would recommend taking stock of who these people might be and then committing to working with them accordingly. Geminis, Gemini suns and Gemini risings. My lovely Geminis, 27th of April, active 3 days before, 3 days after. We have a new moon in Taurus in your 12th house, ruled by Venus, conjunct Saturn in the North Node in your 10th house of career, public status, and public reputation. This is a very interesting energy, Geminis. I feel like you are making a major decision when it comes to your career path. You might be making a major decision also when it comes to what it is that you're going to release or let go of when it comes to your career, vocation, but also public status and public reputation. It feels like something is happening behind the scenes also that could impact your career path and your reputation in the eyes of the world. It could be a variety of things. I mean, you might decide to leave an industry and step into a completely different industry altogether. You might decide to start building something behind the scenes that is going to impact your career path in the long term. So maybe you decide to like start working with someone behind the scenes, and further down the line, you're going to launch, I don't know, this like big company or this like big product or this big project. I also feel like potentially forces outside of your immediate control are impacting your vocational path, your career, your sector, your industry. And even though initially it might feel like something is exiting your life, it could be that a boss is exiting your life. It could be that an authority figure is exiting your life. It could be that your company is sold and maybe there is new leadership coming in. Even though initially you didn't see this coming, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's a bad thing. I actually believe you might benefit from this element exiting your life from a professional perspective. You might also decide to just kind of like accept what is career-wise, industry-wise, and say, yeah, there's no point in me like fighting it. I'm just going to roll with it. And I feel like that is a very, very good strategy at the time of this new moon. Mars in the days before the new moon has opposed Pluto. There may have been some intense, maybe like fights or struggles at work, or maybe intense kind of like arguments or conflicts. There may have also been some destabilizing news in the workplace or destabilizing interactions, maybe with like colleagues, or destabilizing developments when it comes to legislation and how legislation is impacting your day-to-day work life. So this is probably a very soothing new moon to an extent. I would even say that you might decide to take a little bit of like time off to figure out what you're going to do after a chaotic week, and maybe even a chaotic year from a professional perspective. Embrace the new. That is my recommendation. And also, sometimes the best action is no action. The best thing that we can do to welcome more stability in our lives is to do nothing. I mean, I know it's paradoxical, but hey, life is filled with paradoxes. Cancer suns and Cancer risings. 27th of April, active 3 days before, 3 days after. We have a new moon in Taurus in your 11th house. This is interesting. Cancerians, my fellow Cancerians, because I'm Cancer rising as well. You're making new plans for the future. You might be entering a new community. You might be making some new friends. You might be connecting with new people. You might be potentially addressing a new audience. Your community is somehow, if you do have a community, is somehow experiencing maybe a shakeup. But at the same time, this shakeup does seem to lead to increased security and stability and even financial success in the long term, even though initially it could feel like, oh, why is this happening? Maybe like some people are leaving your community, they're exiting your community. Maybe some people within your community are being affected by changes in legislation, changes happening at a global level. But trust me, this is a good trust me, I'm an astrologer. Overall, Cancerians, I feel like this is a good new moon for you. I feel like you are setting new goals that involve working with people in a different way, connecting with new audiences, connecting with new people, working with friends in a new way. And these goals are very strongly aligned with the direction in which your belief system and your worldview and your mentality has been evolving into. So your belief system has been going through some shifts, through some changes, and it's probably going to continue to do so this year and until the middle of 2026. Your relationship with the meaning of life is also growing and evolving. And as a result of that, I feel like you're setting new goals and new intentions, and you're working with people differently. There's also a possibility that some new people might come into your life. Maybe people from abroad, maybe people that you're going to work with that are going to require you maybe to travel, or maybe to travel metaphorically speaking. So you might need to understand how their culture works, or how their kind of like habits and practices and customs, is that the word? How their culture functions. Maybe you're not used to it. Maybe you need to learn. There can be also news coming your way in regards to friends. I feel like friends are building something important in their life, and you might decide to help them in some shape or form. There is also a possibility that you might decide to forgive a friend, or a friend might decide to forgive you if you've been having a hard time, if you've been, at each other's throats. If you've been fighting, if you've been going through issues within your relationship. This new moon is happening right after the Mars-Pluto opposition. I feel like you might have discovered some things that made you feel betrayed in the days before the new moon. I feel like you've been up against some like broader kind of like stronger kind of like forces than you thought you were up against. I feel like there may have been some sort of like crisis in your life in the days leading up to the new moon. Some sort of like crisis connected maybe with like a loved one or children, or maybe even with a boss. So this new moon is saying, okay, take a deep breath, calm down, what's next, and who is on your side? Because there do seem to be some important people on your side. I feel like this new moon can also put the spotlight on you starting the process of achieving a long-term goal connected either with your education or with maybe like visas or foreign like residency or like traveling in some shape or form. That is Cancerians. My dear Leos, Leo suns and Leo risings. 27th of April, active 3 days before, 3 days after, we have a new moon in Taurus. Okay, so Leos, this new moon can bring a fresh start when it comes to your career, when it comes to your vocational path, when it comes to your status in the world, so not just career related. I know people are going to jump and say, what about what's happening outside of my career? I don't care about my career, but hey, let's start with the career. Bear with me. So this new moon can bring a fresh start professionally. I feel like you might be receiving some sort of support or maybe even like financial investment that can help you in your professional life. This new moon says your career path is going through an extensive change, an extensive process of transformation. You may decide to work with people in a new way. You might need to enter new financial partnerships. You might decide to welcome investors, as I've said, or maybe take on like a big loan, or just kind of like apply for I don't know, like financing that could help you in your professional path. I feel like you could also revisit business partnerships at the time of this new moon, but there is a focus on new business partnerships, maybe on more productive business partnerships. And if you decide, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna, I don't know, like fire my accountant because I need a new accountant, I need someone who is more aligned with me, that can also happen. There is a sense of things undergoing changes in your professional life from a financial perspective. That's not necessarily bad. It can actually be really, really good. But I do feel like you have to accept the fact that you don't hold all the power. So if you decide to maybe enter into a business partnership with someone, you might need to make peace with the fact that you're going to have to work in alignment also with their values. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but initially you might fight it or you might be resistant to it. A crisis is coming to an end career-wise. A crisis might also be coming to an end in your relationship sector, including from a professional perspective. So if you've been having like challenges within the relationship sector, they are coming to a close. And there is this sense of, okay, this is what we're doing. This is what we're going to be building. There's a strong focus on building something together with someone else professionally, but also when it comes to your public life, your public sector. There can also be a fresh start happening at the time of this new moon in the life of a parent. I'm looking especially at the mother. And I feel like maybe this is coming off the back of some really maybe intense like challenges in her life. And now things are calming down. The new moon is happening right after Mars opposes Pluto. So in the days leading up to the new moon, there may have been some really like high-strung energies in the air. You might have had some really like difficult times in your relationship with someone else. You might have experienced very strong opposition from someone else. You might have had a really tough time in your relationship, maybe even with your significant other. I feel like saying this, Leos. Don't take things so personally. Sometimes it's not about you, and you taking things personally might actually cause a relationship to implode or to explode or both. So do keep your egos in check. Do keep your anger in check. Do take a bit of a step back before you react very strongly to something that feels like an attack or like an insult, because you may not want to set on fire a specific relationship. It might not be worth it, and it may be a relationship that's actually really good for you. So that is my big recommendation. My dear Virgos, Virgo suns and Virgo risings. 27th of April, active 3 days before, 3 days after, we have a new moon in Taurus in your 9th house. This one is ruled by Venus, conjunct Saturn in the north node in the 7th house of relationships. I feel like you are looking at the world through new eyes, Taurus. My apologies, Virgos. So much earth. So Virgos, I feel like you are finding meaning in a new way in your life. You are looking at your life from the mountaintop and saying, okay, what is the meaning of this all? How is it all coming together? What am I here to learn? I feel like this new moon is bringing up some really significant life lessons for you. So your worldview, your life philosophy, your belief system is likely to go through a change, is likely to experience a shift, especially when it comes to how you interact with others, how you relate with others, and how you work with others. Also, when it comes to romantic relationships. This new moon can also bring a fresh start when it comes to your relationship with someone who is based abroad. You might be forming a relationship with someone who is based abroad. It could be romantic, but it could also be work-wise. So you might start working with, I don't know, like a new stakeholder who is based in a completely different country, and maybe you need to travel to meet up with them and to decide on the kind of like the day-to-day aspects of how the work is going to unfold. The new moon can also bring in a new advisor in your life, but also a new teacher, a new mentor, a new coach, a new guide of some sorts, someone who can help you find healing, find acceptance for some of the things that have happened in your life. Maybe also someone who can help you from a health perspective, physical or mental. The new moon can also bring in a fresh start when it comes to your connection with foreign lands and foreign countries. Maybe you decide to start, I don't know, applying for like a foreign visa, or like initiate the process of, I don't know, like getting your citizenship in a different country, or second citizenship, let's say. There can also be this sense of kind of like turning a corner when it comes to a specific relationship, a difficult relationship, and you're turning a corner because you're looking at it differently. You are wiser. You've learned from the past. You've learned that things cannot always happen the way that you want them to happen. It feels like you're learning to accept how other people are without trying to fix them, change them, adjust what they're doing. And that is likely to benefit your relationships. I will say this, Virgos. The days leading up to the new moon are really challenging for everyone, not just for you. Mars opposes Pluto. There may have been some conflicts at work, like really destructive, intense, powerful conflicts at work. Something might have been dismantled at work. Something might have fallen apart at work. There may have been some really intense frustration that you experienced in the workplace. Maybe also in your interaction with colleagues, maybe also in your interaction with, I don't know, like clients, or even people who work under you if you have employees yourselves, Virgos. But as much as this might have caused a lot of frustration, I feel like you're coming out of it a lot wiser. And let's say maybe someone left work and you got really angry and upset because, I don't know, maybe you have more work to do, or maybe you decided to leave work. Things are going to start stabilizing in the workspace after this new moon. That's what I'm looking at. And that is Virgo. Now we are moving into the update for Libras, Libra suns and Libra risings. 27th of April, new moon in Taurus, active 3 days before, 3 days after, in your 8th house. My dear Libras, you're going through a reset. You've experienced some sort of a crisis. I will say this. When it comes to your approach to work, when it comes to your approach to health, when it comes to your approach to intimate relationships, when it comes to your approach to joint assets, joint finances, joint resources, I feel like you're starting to learn how to do this whole joint thing differently. So let's say you're learning to approach intimacy differently. You're willing to work on it. You're willing to put the effort to maybe adjust to what the other person likes, or what the other person wants from you. If you've been experiencing some sort of a crisis or difficulty and things kind of like taking off in the workspace, this new moon is saying, ta-da, I've learned how to do it differently. I know now how to build, how to work with people, how to give it time, how to be patient, how to take it slow. And that is likely to lead to increased stability at work, better relationships with people that you work with, clients, colleagues, etc. The new moon can also bring in a transformation on the health front. And you might actually decide to take a more gentle approach to your health and maybe to your habits health-wise. So you might decide that the answer is not, I don't know, more working out or more doing, but rather more sleep, more relaxation, more meditation, more rest, more accepting what is, more honoring your emotions and vulnerability. So I feel like you're going through a kind of like psychological kind of like light bulb moment when it comes to either your health or your work or a combination of all of these, but also maybe when it comes to intimacy or joint assets and joint resources. There's also a possibility that you might start working with someone, collaborating with someone quite successfully for the long term in your professional life. It does feel like you might need to do things a little bit their way. And you might feel like their way is quite slow. Their way is quite stoic. Their way is focused on maintaining the status quo, preserving the status quo, being cautious as opposed to going all in with like tremendous intensity. I can tell you this, their way might work. Right before the new moon, in the days leading up to the new moon, so the few days before Mars has been opposing Pluto, I feel like you've had some sort of an intense disappointment or frustration or maybe even like conflict over money or over differences in values, and you might have experienced this in your relationship with a friend or in your relationship with a loved one. You might have even felt betrayed by someone, and you realized, yeah, like people have different values. Not everyone is going to be as 100% in as I am. You might have even had a little bit of a breakup moment with either like a friend or a romantic partner in the days before the new moon. The thing is, sometimes you have to be willing to let go of things fully and completely and surrender completely, and even to an extent give up for change to actually happen, because sometimes we push and we push and we push and we push and we strive and we resist what is. But sometimes not resisting is the answer, as frustrating as that answer might be. Scorpios, Scorpio suns and Scorpio risings. 27th of April, active 3 days before, 3 days after. This new moon is happening in your house of relationships. I mean, I'm going to say this, Scorpios. This new moon is a little bit of a fresh air kind of moment, even though it's happening in Taurus. Fresh earth kind of moment for you when it comes to the interactions that you have with other people, when it comes to your relationship sector, be them romantic relationships, be them professional relationships, be them relationships with your children or with your family members. So you are probably going to feel like the new moon is stabilizing things. You're going to know how to approach a relationship in order to make it work in the long term. You might decide to commit to doing something in order for this relationship to work. You might decide to commit to just accepting something about someone. Accepting that this is who they are, accepting that this is what's important to them, accepting that this is what makes them happy, accept that this is how they feel about certain things. You may realize that the answer in order for this relationship to work is more calm, more patience, more enjoyment of the physical senses, more doing things that are relaxing together rather than pushing, striving, trying to like change things, trying to change this person, trying to change the way that things are. So rather than being in resistance, being in acceptance is probably going to make things work. For those of you who are single, this new moon can bring a fresh start romantically. But it could be with someone who's been on your radar for some time, or with someone who you've already been like dating or who you've known for some time. But now it feels like things are kind of like taking a turn for the better. I do feel like this is an auspicious new moon. I'm just gonna say it because of the involvement of Venus in Pisces, because of the involvement of the North Node. There can be some really fated developments that happen in your relationship sector. They could involve more romance, more love. They could involve children. So some of you could experience this new moon as putting the spotlight on pregnancy or on positive long-term developments happening with your kids. And they also seem to involve your partner, right? Take it slow, take it easy, Scorpios. And I realize this is probably going to sound super redundant. You may have been really on edge in the days leading up to this new moon because Mars has been opposing Pluto in the days before the 27th of April. You may have had really intense, transformative, destructive almost conflicts with people at home, maybe with people in the workspace as well. Things might have fallen apart. Something might have fallen apart either in the workspace or at home. Maybe something did like break. Like sometimes things do break, they do fall apart. So I don't know, the fridge stops working or the washing machine, or like Mars Pluto can be like a tangibly kind of like destructive energy. So you might have been really annoyed and on edge, and you might have had quite the temper in the days leading up to the new moon. And I feel like this new moon is saying, yeah, you know what? The people who are in your life who love you, this new moon puts a spotlight on the people who love you. The people who are in your life who love you, they don't deserve this. They deserve a calmer you. They deserve a more accepting version of you. They deserve a more gentle version of you. They deserve a more relaxed version of you. And they deserve a more compassionate version of you. And you might actually make a lot more progress in your relationships with other people by taking the compassionate route as opposed to taking the warrior route. There's also a possibility in the days leading up to the new moon that your partner, if you are in a relationship, might have experienced some massive transformations either in the workspace or in their own family life. They might have had quite the tough time. So it could feel like this new moon brings in a fresh start for them, and it kind of like reverberates also into your own life, Scorpios. My dear Sagittarius, Sagittarius suns and Sagittarius risings. 27th of April, active 3 days before, 3 days after. This new moon in Taurus puts a spotlight on your 6th house. And the new moon is ruled by Venus in your 4th house of home and family life. So a few things are happening here. The new moon can bring in a new job or a fresh start in the workspace. Maybe you are starting a new job, maybe you're starting a new work project. This new work project could have something to do with your home life as well. Maybe you're going to work more from home, or maybe you're going to work less from home, or maybe you're going to work in such a way that you have more time to spend with your loved ones, with your family, with your kids. I feel like if you are starting something new on the work front, you're taking very strongly into account what's happening in your home life and in your family life. So it does feel like you are taking very seriously the relationships that you have with kids, with romantic partners, with parents, with your family members, and it feels like you have some sort of a duty towards them. And as a result, you're maybe like tweaking the way that you go about your day-to-day work. It also feels like you could literally start working on something from home or connected with the home. So some of you could start, I don't know, like renovating the house or building an extension or redecorating or saving money to buy a new home, or starting the long process of, I don't know, applying for a mortgage, let's say. This new moon can also bring in a fresh start when it comes to the health of a family member. It does feel like they are in a good place. So if you've been worried about the health of a family member, it does look like they're in a good place, but they really need to stick to, they really need to commit to the new habits, the habits that promote stability and security and safety within their body. I'm even like referring to the nervous system here, right? They might need to focus on nutritious food, on being very disciplined and rigorous about what they put into their body. There's also a possibility that you might focus on your health as well. And as a result, you're kind of like pulling all the family members in. So you might decide, okay, we're going on a health streak. We're going to try to eat as much as possible. Nutritious food, nutrient dense food. I feel like health is really important for everyone in the home around this time. And you need to make some sort of a joint commitment. So not alone, but in conjunction with other people, such as your kids or your spouse. You need to make a joint commitment to stick to this new regimen. If you've been looking for a job, you're probably going to get a new job around this time, or like there's going to be maybe like a successful interview or like a job offer on the horizon. I want to remind you that this type of astrological event. So the new moon is a fresh start. It's the seed moment. It's the planting of the seed kind of moment. It's not the actual like outcome. So it might take a little bit of time for the outcome to be very, very visible. In the days leading up to the new moon, especially the 3 days before, 2-3 days before, Mars has been opposing Pluto. Really destabilizing energy when it comes to your education, when it comes to transportation, when it comes to your mentality, when it comes to your belief system. You might have had some intense fights with siblings, cousins, maybe even colleagues. There may have been a dramatic change of plans when it comes to traveling. I feel like you need to choose your battles very carefully. Sagittarians, when it comes to defending your worldviews, when it comes to defending your belief system. Sometimes you might inadvertently say the wrong thing and really trigger like a chain reaction that destroys something that was really good in your life. So it could be a relationship. So do choose your words wisely. And my recommendation also in the days leading up to the new moon is be quite careful on the road. Don't speed on the road. Don't get frustrated on the road. And if something happens that requires you to like reschedule, I don't know, like a long distance trip, I would take that as a sign from the universe saying, I'm protecting you from something bigger and possibly even more damaging. Capricorns, Capricorn suns and Capricorn risings. What is going on? 27th of April, we've got a new moon active 3 days before, 3 days after in your 5th house. Oh my gosh, Capricorns, I feel like you are amongst the people who are really going to like this new moon. I mean, it is activating the 5th house, which is a house of fun, of enjoyment, of entertainment, of pleasure, of passions, of hobbies, of creativity. So this new moon can bring a fresh start in any of these aspects of your life. You might start learning something that you really like. You might take up a new kind of like class or course in a topic that is very, very close to your heart. You might start to learn more about nutrition, for instance, or you might start to learn more about money, for instance, or about a topic that could lead to increased enjoyment and pleasure and security and stability in your life. You might also enter a new chapter, a new stage when it comes to the relationship with your kids, if you have kids, or when it comes to the relationship with siblings, cousins, colleagues, or neighbors. So it feels like you are probably going to get along better with these people. You've found a new way to communicate with them. You communicate in a more maybe like reserved way, in a more empathetic way. Maybe you just realize you need to listen more in order for the relationships with these people to function better, I'd say. There is a possibility if you've got kids, that kids could be kicking off a new chapter in their own life, educationally speaking. Maybe they start learning like a new foreign language, for instance, or maybe they start learning how to play an instrument. The communication with children is likely to experience an improvement, but I feel like you have to be quite tolerant and accepting in order for that to happen, and take a very gentle, kind, smooth, in terms of communication approach. What is the saying? So I'm trying to jog my memory. So do they say that you attract more bees with honey than with something else? So bring in the honey. A new romantic relationship could also start taking shape around this time, my dear Capricorns, especially if you're single. There's also a possibility that if you are with someone already, you might find a way to communicate better about what makes you happy, about what you enjoy, about what brings you pleasure within the romantic sector. So that can be equally helpful. For some of you, this new moon can bring news of pregnancy, my dear Capricorns, but the new moon in and of itself is not sufficient for that to happen. There have to be other things kind of like going on in your life. In any case, it's an enjoyable new moon. It is a new moon that's also saying whatever brings you happiness, whatever lights your heart on fire is worth investing the time and the energy and putting the commitment towards it. Even if the road has been kind of like up and down, even if the road is not easy ahead of you, even if the road requires a lot of vulnerable conversations and a lot of opening up and a lot of sharing what's going on the inside. I feel like you are learning how to communicate in a manner that brings people kind of like closer to you. And you're learning to communicate about topics that are not necessarily super easy for you to talk about. Maybe topics that make you feel like you're not 100% in control. In the days leading up to the new moon, Mars has been opposing Pluto. Intense power struggles, maybe some sort of like destabilization from a financial perspective. Maybe you've had to like pay for something that got you quite angry. I mean, maybe it felt like you shouldn't pay this much, or maybe this thing should have cost less. So I feel like this is a bit of a breath of fresh air, this new moon coming up. Aquarius suns and Aquarius risings. 27th of April, active 3 days before, 3 days after. We've got a new moon in your 4th house. I mean, Aquarians, this is actually quite a nice new moon. A fresh start, a new beginning at home in your private life. For some of you, this could mean moving into a new home. For some of you, this could mean starting the process to look for a new home, or starting the process of investing more in the home. There could also be a fresh start for a family member, maybe a fresh start that brings in increased material security and stability for them. So that is probably good news, I dare say. Maybe your parents are doing better financially. Maybe they're starting to build something in their life that requires some sort of a long-term commitment, but that also seems to give them a strong sense of purpose, and you seem to be quite happy for them in this regards. Some of you could also decide to direct more of your time, energy, and resources towards your private life as opposed to your public life, as opposed to your maybe like career or public status or contribution to society. You might say, yeah, you know what? This is the time for me to build at home, to build maybe in a tangible way, but also to build from a metaphorical perspective, to build the relationship that I have with my romantic partner, my parent, my child, let's say. So I feel like you're going to be investing more in the home. That could be time, that could be energy, that could be finances, let's say. Some of you could also start making money from home in a new way. That is a possibility. I feel like you're also becoming a lot more accepting of how things are at home, and you're deciding to work with what is, as opposed to trying to like change things very, very dramatically, let's say. In the days leading up to the new moon, 3 days before especially, Mars has been opposing Pluto. Intense power struggles, big conflicts, major opposition from someone. It might have felt like someone attacked you, or you were under kind of like intense, I don't know, like opposition and scrutiny from someone from the outside. It could have been a boss, it could have been a partner, it could have been an enemy, it could have been an adversary, it could have been someone within a kind of like court of law kind of setup. They probably did not know who they were up against. So I feel like if you did experience this energy of like being like threatened or like attacked, or like someone trying to like push back, or someone trying to like dominate you with Pluto in your 1st house, I mean, I'm just gonna say it. Yeah, they probably didn't realize the magnitude of your inner resources and how resistant you can be to external attempts meant to push you around or to dominate you. So I feel like saying you probably showed them, Aquarius. Nevertheless, it might have been a very draining experience. I will say this: relationships may have been like heavily tested. Like really big fights might have occurred within relationships, but also not just when it comes to romantic relationships. When it comes to interactions with people at work, especially with bosses, yeah, things might have not been very calm and steady and nice and pleasant. So this new moon is saying, yeah, you know what? Let me just like rethink my priorities. And last but not least, my dear Pisces suns and Pisces risings. 27th of April, active 3 days before, 3 days after. We have a new moon in your 3rd house, ruled by Venus and Pisces. Venus in Pisces conjunct Saturn in the North Node in your first house. So this new moon can bring a fresh start when it comes to one of the following. uh, I'm chuckling a little bit because my significant other is a Pisces rising, and this new moon can bring a fresh start when it comes to cars and transportation. So if you're looking to buy a car, or to sell a car, or to approach your commute differently, this new moon is it. This new moon is saying, yeah, maybe you need to get rid of this car. Maybe you need to buy a smaller car. Maybe you need to commute into work on your bike, let's say. You might also experience some sort of a fresh start, Pisces, when it comes to the way in which you communicate about yourselves. So I feel like you are much more comfortable to talk about the things that you've struggled with, maybe the things that you've had a hard time with from a mental health perspective, from a self-love perspective, from an emotional kind of like turmoil perspective. So you might actually decide to open up about these things, and you might be very pleasantly surprised to see that it feels really good, that it draws people closer to you, that even this like exercise is in and of itself really constructive when it comes to improving the relationship that you have with who you are. It feels like you might also start learning something new, something about yourselves, Pisces, maybe something about your physical body, something about the way that you need to take care of yourselves, something about the way that you need to, I want to say, feed yourself. So you might learn something new about like food and nutrition. You might also decide to approach food and nutrition and your relationship with your body differently, in a calmer, steadier manner. Less is more, but also the long game is the winning game kind of approach. There is a possibility that in the days leading up to the new moon, you might have had a little bit of an intense, difficult, frustrating time when it comes to your work or when it comes to your health. So I feel like this new moon is saying, yeah, you've learned from this heavy experience, this intense experience. For some of you Pisces risings, in the days leading up to the new moon, there could be some sort of a health crisis. I do want to put it out there. And it could be something that's been like building up behind the scenes, but there's also a possibility that the big conflict might erupt at work. So once again, it feels like maybe you've ignored some of the things that have been unfolding behind the scenes, or you didn't realize that they were this big. The new moon is saying, okay, maybe you need to speak more openly. Maybe you need to communicate in a different way. Maybe you need to express your wants and your desires and your expectations in a different way. If you experience any health challenges in the days leading up to the new moon, which is a possibility, I don't want to scare you. Please listen to the advice of your doctor above everything else. It could just be like a state of like intense kind of like stress and tension. But if you do experience anything on the health front, the new moon could say, okay, let's take this experience, let's learn from it, and let me just do things differently. I feel like you're probably going to need to like sleep more, relax more, eat better, and like calm your nervous system if you ask me. And that is Pisces. Folks, I want to thank you for tuning in, for listening to your new moon update. Let us know in the comments how the new moon unfolds for you, and what new goals, what new intentions you're setting at the time of this new moon, and also how the Mars-Pluto opposition is unfolding for you, if you are feeling it at all. And remember that if you want to work with me, you can find me on my website, which is written in the stars-astrology.com. That is where you can book a personal astrological consultation with me. I've also left the link in the description box and in the comments. And if you're on Instagram, I'm also active on Instagram. So if you want to follow me for more kind of like daily, weekly updates, personal and astrological, my Instagram handle is @RuxUnbelievable. Rux Unbelievable in one word. That is my only Instagram account. If my content is useful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends, and you can also make a donation to my channel using the thanks button underneath the video. Best of luck, folks, and I will see you next time. Bye.